Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And man, I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in a while, probably because I haven't. So, and for that, I apologize. I have been on vacation. I have been sick on that vacation. I have been well, hey, David H., 2-hour drive to camping. Welcome. Good luck. I have been, like I said, I've been on vacation. I've been sick on that vacation. I've gotten back and had to play catch up. It has been a time. It has been a time. And tonight, I'm coming back from a wedding, which is why this is so late. So I apologize for all of that, of course. But ready to get back into a regular schedule. And so that's what I'm going to talk about tonight is, notice I don't have a document pulled up here. I'm not going to go through any documents tonight. The stream is, unfortunately, David H., I don't know if it's going to be a full 2 hours, but we'll see how that goes. Rekieta for SCOTUS. So we will be talking tonight about what is coming. And Oni Baba has hit it kind of on the head. The Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has been issuing decisions this past 2 weeks, really. And it's a little exciting because these are the types of decisions that will be taught in law school, right? Like these are big decisions. The last Supreme Court case I covered was Masterpiece Cake Shop, which was about the gay wedding cakes. And that case probably won't be covered in law school. We all thought, not we all, let me not speak for other people. I thought, and many other people thought, that the Supreme Court would start to talk about where the religious exemption lies in objecting to a private business doing a business that they believe contradicts their core beliefs. In this case, should a person who makes custom wedding cakes be forced to make a cake for a gay marriage if they don't believe that gay marriage is a valid exercise of marriage under their religious beliefs, their sincerely held religious beliefs. Did I assume the cake's gender identity? So anyway, a lot of people, myself included, thought the court might take the opportunity to well, I appreciate that, Richard, Dr. Richard R. Ape. And I'm humbled that you would drop the kill stream to pop over to my little channel. So thank you very much. But yeah, a lot of us thought that the Supreme Court would take the opportunity to determine where the religious exemption lies, like how far it goes, or to explore the ideas of forcing someone to create a piece of what some people would call art, right? A customized cake. We weren't sure if the Supreme Court would say, yeah, you can force people to do that, or no, you can't, or if they don't want to do it, then they can't do it for anybody. The Supreme Court didn't take that decision, and they ended up kind of taking an easy way out. In a way, I'm not trying to be too critical of the Supreme Court here, because what they did wasn't an easy decision either. But we thought they would issue a ruling that would be something that would be a landmark decision going forward, that people could really rely on. And they didn't do it. But this past week, they started dropping absolute bombs as to some of these decisions that they're dropping. I mean, very, very important decisions. Public sector unions cannot force public employees to pay union dues, which is stunning. I don't know if you guys know how unions tend to operate and really how unions stay in business and make a ton of money is they have gone from this interesting idea where people unionized and then those people got the benefits and protections of a union with a sort of collective bargaining agreement, and they would have like a shared sort of idea that they could buy into, right? It's almost like joining a political party. You say, these are the things I believe in and I want from my workplace, and then the union makes them happen. They went from that as sort of a conceptual idea of what a union was, and instead they have not the person, not the employee be a member of the union, but rather their position, their actual employment position is the unionized part. And they don't care who's filling it because the position pays the union dues. And whether the person in that position wishes to participate in the union or not, the dues get paid by the position either way. And then the person either opts into the union or opts out, but their paycheck is impacted whether they want to be in the union or not. And then they don't have the freedom to negotiate. So this is kind of how it is in a lot of private unions still, but in public unions, that's what they've gone to, or that's what they had gone to as well. And the Supreme Court just said that that is not constitutional. I haven't read the decision yet, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But that's a huge ruling. That changes a lot. Public sector unions are a really strange thing. If you think about what makes a public sector union really strange, is that so a union is opposed to the employer, right? They stand in opposition to the employer in an adversarial relationship. And I mean, this is how the legal system works too. Adversarial relationships are this sort of, the idea behind an adversarial relationship is both sides become the most honest. I don't know if that's true, but that's the idea. And then that you get the best deal by both sides vying for what they want and coming together and producing sort of the exact middle ground, because each one is fighting very hard for what they want. That's the idea of an adversarial relationships. But in a public sector union, who's the employer? I mean, there's some guy, but it's you and me who pay taxes. We're the ultimate employer. And so when you have a public sector union, you're negotiating against taxpayers. That's who you're negotiating against. That's a little weird. And so they operate as a strange sort of animal where they're a part of the government. They're paid by taxes. They don't really have the same performance metrics. And and then they just end up with this weird sort of relationship where they can then, through a union, force someone to pay money that isn't theirs to them, to pay more money. So it's a little weird. It's a strange animal. Public sector unions don't make any sense to me. They may make sense to you, and that's fine. But so the Supreme Court ruling on that is massive. They have another decision in U.S. v. Carpenter where they made in my opinion, a very correct decision. Now, I haven't read all of the details of it. Again, there's a lot to talk about there. But the overarching decision is that the police or any law enforcement agency of the government needs both probable cause and to fulfill the warrant requirement if they want your private metadata. So if you have a cell phone, for example, and the government wants to track your movement by using the pings on your cell phone towers, then they have to get a warrant for that. And that's something that is really, really important from a privacy standpoint. We don't want the government tracking people's movements through their cell phones just because your cell phone happens to be operated by Verizon. And in the past, the idea was there's a third-party doctrine in these sort of search and seizure things where they say if you gave the information to a third party that had a valid business interest in taking it, then they could pass it on without a warrant request or without a warrant at all. The law enforcement agency could just contact Verizon and say, hey, we want to know the cell phone information for Clay Early. We want to see what towers he's been hitting, and we want to follow his movements around and find out all of the gay nightclubs that he's going to. And so they would do that, and no warrant was required, and they would do that actually to track down criminals or people alleged to have commit crimes. So that's they have ruled that that is not appropriate, that they must get a warrant. So there's at least a little bit. There's a little bit of insulation between the police and you. and trust me, guys, we want this, because what they've been doing, what they have the power to do, is to collect all of this data without a warrant. And they have been. Make no mistake. They've been doing this. Like, this isn't tinfoil conspiracy stuff. This is stuff you can easily verify, that the NSA has been collecting all sorts of metadata, and they've just been sitting on it. It just goes into these giant servers and sits there. And then if they wanted to, if they wanted to get to that data, they would ask permission and then go review it, but they've been collecting it. Now they need a warrant to collect it. I mean, they probably still will, because they're the government and all that stuff, but anyway, US v. Carpenter is a landmark decision. It changes how the court looks at metadata and what is protected and what is not. What is the third-party doctrine? How far does it extend? And that's fantastic. Fantastic decision. So I got a couple questions here that I want to address. Let's see. Stewie S. says, I'm retarded. I was sitting online for an hour last night wondering where the heck you were. By last night, I assume you mean Thursday. Technically, for me, it is morning. It is Saturday morning at about 1 a.m. But yes. Well, I don't think you were, though, because my schedule has been so unpredictable that I think, your mistake of when I would be on is warranted, and I take all of the blame for that. So you're not retarded, I am. Brandon B says, how would Justice Rekieta rule on some of these cases? On the on the public sector union case, I would probably just rule that public sector unions are unconstitutional. The idea behind a union is that you have an employer who isn't following employment law. And so your union is advocating for them to follow the appropriate law and to provide proper working conditions. I don't think that if we need public sector unions to make sure that the government is properly employing and compensating people, then we're in huge, huge trouble. So that's... I don't think public sector unions should really exist in their current form. I'm not sure what form they should take, but I have big problems with unions. They get a lot of passes where they're basically corporations, but they don't act like corporations, or they don't get treated like corporations, and that's a problem for me. And then Carpenter, I would probably I haven't read Carpenter, but I'm guessing I would go further than the court went. Because I really see a danger in digital privacy being broken by the government. So I'm guessing I would go farther than them, but I don't know. I haven't read it. Andrew says, am I to infer that you were at your parents' house? When are we going to the Crooked Barley and Vine to Sunday work? No, it does not work. Sorry. I was in for a wedding tonight. I got here 20 minutes ago and set up to do this, or 25 minutes ago, set up the computer to do this. And then tomorrow I will be out, and then Lady Rackets and I are going to a show at the theater tomorrow. So let's see. Or the real Lady Rackets might be overruling me right now. Oh yeah, 10 to 7 is not going to work for us, buddy. Sorry. Oh yeah, I forgot we will be here for a time on Sunday. So let's see. What's the other Supreme Court ruling? They had a bad one. They had a really bad one, in my opinion. And my brain is broken. Just a moment. Let me pull up the recent decisions that they had. Oh my goodness. US v. Carpenter was great, but right before that they had a really bad one. Oh, it involved Minnesota. Oh yeah, the taxes. The tax decision, we're going to talk about that very soon as well. Just a second, I'll explain the tax decision. Yes, thank you, nippleless woman. The tax decision is, in my opinion, one of the most short-sighted, frustrating reaches of government. Okay, so if you don't know, online retailers have not been required, well, by most states, to collect taxes on online sales. So what you have in Minnesota, for example, is you have a sales tax and then you have a use tax. Okay, they're two different taxes. No matter what some dummy on Twitter tries to tell you, they're two different taxes. The sales tax is a tax that is collected by the person doing the sale. They pay the tax based on their gross receipts. Okay, that's how sales tax works. A use tax is like the sales tax, except the burden falls upon you when a person selling something doesn't collect a sales tax. All right, so let's say that you buy something that someone makes, like your neighbor makes a chair and sells it to you. He makes a chair, sells it to you, $50. You buy it. He doesn't collect taxes on it because, he's not really equipped to do that. I think there's a minimum amount that you have to sell to start collecting taxes. It's pretty low, but $50 probably doesn't trigger it. So he doesn't collect the tax. You are actually supposed to pay a use tax on that product in the state of Minnesota, and probably in all of your states as well. I just don't know how they organize them there. But you also have an exemption to the use tax. You're exempted in Minnesota up to $770 for the use tax. Whatever. The use tax, to me, makes zero logical sense. Okay? I don't understand why me buying a product, and it doesn't matter where it is, guys. This is the weird thing about the use tax. Let's say you buy a product in Iowa, and then you haul it back to Minnesota. They say you need to actually pay Minnesota taxes on that. And the weird thing is they let you subtract out the Iowa tax that you paid. But if Iowa has a lower sales tax than what Minnesota has, or wherever you buy it, if they have a lower sales tax than what Minnesota has, you have to pay the difference. Okay, so this is very weird because I don't know what Minnesota is doing to facilitate this transaction. If I buy something in Illinois, well, Illinois is a bad example because of their tax rates, but let's say I buy something in Nebraska and bring it back to Minnesota to use. There's no logical connection to that tax, right? So it doesn't make any sense to have a use tax. It's just a way for them to collect money. Problem with the use tax, no one pays it. No one pays it. Look, there's just nobody does it. Who keeps track of all of this stuff? Just so you know, in Minnesota, there's no sales tax on clothing. So let's say there's a similar use tax law in Texas, which has an 8% sales tax. So you come up to Minnesota, you buy some clothes, there's no taxes on them. You drive back down to Texas or fly or whatever. You're supposed to pay the 8.5% sales tax that Texas has on those clothes. You just are. So, if you're not, you're breaking the law. Let's just think about that. Who do you know that pays this use tax? I met someone on the internet who lied to me and says that they do. Okay? Don't believe them for a second. Yeah, Texas's sales tax is high, but Texas also does not have a state income tax. So bear that in mind, Flying Eggs 33. So there's someone who tells me that they do this. But just remember, if you buy anything in another state and you don't pay taxes on it in your state, or you pay less taxes in that state than you would in your state, you're a lawbreaker. You're committing tax evasion, just so you know. So every time someone says, if you don't commit a crime, you have nothing to hide, you're all criminals. I know all of you. Yeah, we all are. there's something that we're breaking at any moment in time. Excuse me. And Dick Nutley, I'm pretty close to agreeing with you. Texas is a favorite place of mine. So anyway, let me circle back to this ridiculous ruling, right? So online retailers were not required to collect the sales tax. It was incumbent upon the buyers to pay the use tax. Okay, so now Stewie S., what's in the Glencairn tonight? Lagavulin 16. I don't have. I was at a wedding. I drank a lot of wine, and then I had a vodka soda with lime in it. So I've got a cherry Diet Coke that was in my parents' fridge, and I'm not drinking tonight anymore because now I need to hydrate. But yeah, so sorry about that. So that's what's in the Glencairn tonight. It's a can, the Glen can of feisty cherry Diet Coke. Ugh. So sorry guys. But anyway, back to this tax ruling. So the Supreme Court has now ruled that states can impose their sales tax, that is constitutional for a state to impose its sales tax upon an online retailer. No matter where the retailer is located, they have to collect a tax from the state and pay the state. This is an absolute nightmare. And I'm going to talk about why. This is not a nightmare for places like Amazon. Good night, Lady Rackets. I will see you soon. So this is a disaster because, like I said, it's not a disaster for Amazons or the Best Buys, these giant companies that have big departments to handle all their taxes. Okay, this is a disaster for small companies that ship things to multiple states. All right, and here's why. You have to track the state that you're shipping it to and their sales tax and pay that state, which means you typically have to register with their sales tax thing, set up an account, and then pull them or send them the money. And this is a stupid system, okay? And let's talk about the logical reasons why it's stupid. I'm in Minnesota. Let's say I find a small retailer in Texas. No. We'll pick Kentucky because there's this ginger ale that I really like in Kentucky called Ale 81. So, and I strongly recommend it. If you're ever in Kentucky, buy some because you can have it shipped to you, but it costs a fortune. So let's say I decide to splurge and I want to buy some Ale 81 and have them ship it to me in Minnesota. All right. So I go online, I go to Ale 81's website. I decide to purchase their beverage and have them ship it to me, and I pay them. What on earth? I'll get to your question in a second, Dick Nutley. What on earth did Minnesota do to warrant tax dollars on that transaction? Like, if I drive to the store here in town and I buy soda from the store, the state of Minnesota provided the roads that I drove on. They provide legal recourse if something about that transaction goes wrong. I can haul that store into a Minnesota court. I know that because they're here. They're located here. Minnesota provides fire, police, ambulatory services. All of that sort of stuff is here. So if I am at that store and I have a heart attack, they'll call an ambulance. If the store catches on fire, a fire truck will come. Those services are local, and they're partly funded by the state. State sales tax makes sense. On a transaction from a distributor in Kentucky, it doesn't make any sense at all. I know a late one is the name. I got it. I know this. But it's Ale 81 if you're looking it up online, right? This is for the benefit of the people who don't know, Mr. Thompson. But thank you very much for pointing that out. It's pronounced a late one. It's written as Ale 81 in case you want to have some. And I strongly recommend it. It's delicious, as I'm sure Sean Thompson can attest. No, you don't like it? Well then, that's fine. So anyway, what does the state of Minnesota do for my transaction that takes place in Kentucky? Nothing. Not at all. And now before someone comes in with the wisecrack of, well, they ship it to me and so it comes in on a road, right? That doesn't matter because the shipping is a separate transaction. And the shipping companies magically have to pay taxes for the roads. Plus we have gasoline, the gas tax in each state that is presumably to pay for transportation. That's what they bill it as. So my transportation of that product from there to here is paid for by other things. The sale of the drink to me is not facilitated by Minnesota. It's facilitated by Kentucky. So it would make sense, in my opinion, if the Supreme Court ruled that the state in which the transaction occurs can charge a state sales tax. So if I'm buying something from a distributor in Kentucky, then I pay a Kentucky tax. Look, Amazon's got warehouses pretty much in almost every state. So Amazon is not going to be, that's not going to matter, right? Because there's an Amazon warehouse here in Minnesota, and it's almost guaranteed that whatever I buy is coming through the Amazon warehouse here in Minnesota. And I can bring Amazon to court in Minnesota. They have significant business contacts here. The company that makes a late one does not. So let's say I get that bottle and I go to open it and the glass bottle is broken and I cut a portion of my finger off because of a defective bottle. I likely can't haul a late one into court because they don't have significant business contacts in Minnesota. They didn't solicit me in Minnesota. I went to their website to find their drink. They don't do any advertising or marketing here. So what tie would I have to bring them into court in Minnesota? Why am I being taxed here on something like that? Doesn't make sense. This is a bad ruling. So anyway, I'm not a fan of that. Should be no sales tax, but I'm okay charging Yankee sales tax. What they do is rub elbows with jagoffs in DC and offer each other cuts of your money. That's what Minnesota does. Oh, I fully believe that. That is true. Okay, so I do not agree, clearly. I do not agree with that decision. But there's one more decision. Janice. My brain is so fried, guys. Here we go. Oh, that's the public sector employees. What do we got? So we've got Carpenter, Janice. Oh, the other news. The other news isn't a case at all. Sorry about that. The other news, of course, is that Anthony Kennedy is resigning from the Supreme Court, which means that Donald Trump most likely will be nominating the next Supreme Court justice. And unless the Democrats are able to completely filibuster for a very long time, Trump will be electing the next Supreme Court or appointing the next Supreme Court justice, which is pretty big news for the court. Not Sandow says, love the channel, Nick. My father was a lawyer, which just makes me a jerk. Well, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Sean, my vacation was very good. Vacation to Texas was very good. We had the kids all over the state. We stayed at the La Cantera Resort in San Antonio, which is really, really a fantastic place. We went to a little tiny town called Bremont, Texas, which is partly why I couldn't live stream last week, because the internet there was comically bad. No, I haven't talked about the new lawsuit documents, but I can. I can in just a little bit. Okay, so Anthony Kennedy's resigning, and I want to talk a little bit about something that bothers me. Some of you have heard me talk about this. Like I've talked about it in my Discord, which I don't have it up, but patreon.com, not right here. It's not here. I'm just pointing as if it were. Patreon.com/lawsplaining is if you do the $5 or higher level, you can pop in the Discord, and we have live chats every Wednesday, and we do, you know, we do just typing chats all the time and stuff like that. But so I've discussed this in there, and I discussed this in the Here's What I Don't Get Discord as well. Sorry, I'm tangenting, trying to get my brain focused. The people have been talking about Anthony Kennedy being a swing vote, and they talk a lot about the court voting on liberal or conservative lines. Okay, did you remember to go to the Alamo? I was in the basement of the Alamo. They talk about liberal and conservative lines in the court, and I don't like this description, okay, because it makes the court look political, and I get it, okay, I get it. We know how most of the justices are going to vote on something like abortion, which is a highly politicized topic, but that's a headline piece. The politicization of the court is a headline-grabbing piece. Conservative justices vote this way. Liberal justices vote this way. Great. That works on some issues. But then conveniently, they'll leave it out when those party lines when the party lines don't exist. And, the travel ban. Going to talk about that too. And that's what triggered all of this, okay? So what I want to talk about a little bit is that you cannot look at the justices as a conservative justice or a liberal justice. It's more nuanced than that. Justices have how do we call it? A judicial perspective, okay? And that is what matters. It's not liberal and conservative, way too broad. But a judicial perspective looks like this. And I'm going to use Anthony Kennedy because he is a great, great example of an easily identifiable judicial perspective, and it helps you understand some of his rulings. Anthony Kennedy, if you don't know, wrote the gay marriage decision, okay, making gay marriage a right. No matter what state law there is, you can get a gay marriage in any state in the union after 2015. It's the Obergefell decision. Anthony Kennedy wrote that. Anthony Kennedy also wrote the decision in Masterpiece Cake Shop, which seems to be contrary to the idea that everyone has a right to be married, like whatever that wedding looks like, whatever that marriage looks like, okay? So he says homosexuals can marry, but he doesn't say that this cake owner should be punished for not making a cake for that same wedding, right? Seems to be contradictory. But Anthony Kennedy's judicial perspective lines up with helping the underdog almost all the time. He looks for the party with the weakest or the lowest amount of power in the transaction. So I just want my SCOTUS to be filled with constitutionalists. Just so happens only conservatives seem to have that view nowadays. None of this living document nonsense. Right, and I'll talk about that in just a second too. But let's look at the cake decision. This is a good exercise for finding out why Anthony Kennedy rules this way. Okay, so here you have this guy who owns a cake shop. Gay couple comes in. Apparently, like 7 gay couples came to him and asked him for cakes, and he said no to all of them. Okay? Now, there's a couple ways to approach this, and Anthony Kennedy takes a very specific way. He says, if you read the opinion carefully, he basically says, this guy probably can't get away with this. He probably can't do this. We're not ruling in this way. We're not ruling that he can't, but the court uses Kennedy uses a lot of language that says, were this today, under new circumstances, we would probably find it to be not okay, right? And he talks a lot about how for a long time, gay couples have been ostracized and cast out of the community and treated like second-class citizens, even by the law and the courts. So he sets it up as this guy can't do this, but then he lets him off the hook. But then think about the cake shop guy. So here's a guy, he runs his own bakery. Since this decision, he has stopped making, or not since this decision, since this incident, he has stopped making wedding cakes for anybody, because they told him he couldn't make wedding cakes for just heterosexual marriages, and he said, fine, like, that's okay, I won't make them at all. This decision says that he loses, or because of this decision that he made, he loses 40% of his income. Okay, that's obviously huge, a huge blow to your personal income. Also, he's no longer able to make cakes, which is what he does. Like, this is a big part of him as an artist or as a business owner creating it. So he's no longer able to do that. Next, let's look at this. He's blasted on social media. He is, bigot, hateful, horrible person, terrible business owner, all these things. Everybody hates this guy, right? Sure, you have a contingent of conservatives or right-wing people who say that this guy's fine, but largely this guy is treated very poorly in social media, and he's treated very poorly by the regular media. Because we have this culture now where if someone does something you don't like, instead of just going anywhere else, you put them on blast and you hope that everybody tears them down, okay? Gatsgat says YouTube is not sending notifications. Sue them. I will try. Thanks, buddy. Good to see you. Good to see you. So he's treated poorly in the media. He's treated poorly on social media. And finally, the Colorado Civil Rights Commission comes in and starts to review the case. And they say that, not an email tease, I just haven't responded. Sorry, bud. I'll get back to you. So anyway, the commission talks to him, and he says, look, my deeply held religious beliefs say that I shouldn't support this, because that's what I believe for my whole life. That's what I believe now. My religion says I shouldn't do this. They say that his religious beliefs are despicable rhetoric. That's the quote from the Civil Rights Commission. And then they literally compare his decision to Adolf Hitler and slave owners. Okay, so that's how this guy's treated. So you have one guy, and you have just about everybody telling him he's the worst person since literally Hitler. I mean, it can't read better. And this isn't an official proceeding. They're saying your thinking led to Hitler and slave owners, which I don't think is the fairest comparison. And Anthony Kennedy says it's not. Like, that's not the job of the Civil Rights Commission to make those sort of claims about someone's beliefs. Their job is to find out if those beliefs infringe upon someone else's rights, and then which right wins. And they didn't do that. But the way Kennedy comes about this decision, if you look at it this way, this guy has the least power of anybody involved. He's just a lone citizen expressing his First Amendment right, and he's treated like he's throwing people into ovens and in camps. Gatscat says they both used ovens. Thank you. Well timed. Well timed. Oh my goodness. So anyway, if you know Anthony Kennedy and his judicial perspective is going to be really almost always to stick with the weakest party, you know how he's going to rule on this. Anthony Kennedy was expected to be the swing vote in the Obamacare decision. Instead, it was Roberts, and Kennedy stayed on the side of the conservatives, right? But why? Because they're forcing you to buy health insurance from a giant company. And they did it all by lobbying, and the giant company saying, look, we're not going to do this unless you force everyone to buy our product by law. So who was left out of that whole decision, by the way? The whole decision on healthcare and how it should be done? You and me. No one asked us how we should have to purchase healthcare, or if we should. They asked literally the people who sell it. That's who they worked with. That's who Obama worked with, was the people who sell insurance. He said, you know what, guys? We want to improve health insurance in America. How do you think we should do that? Make everybody buy it. That sounds good. Sounds like a good plan. That's what they went with. So think about that. So Kennedy, you know, his whole position was you can't force people to buy a product. And if you read, don't read that decision. It's ridiculously long. It's horrifying. And Justice Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, should maybe have stepped down after saying it. He's made some good decisions, but that decision was very bad. Very bad. Well, Obama sometimes sounds like Kermit. Dick Nutley says, are you aware that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission requires that there be a number of minority class bringing the complaint? Law requires a stacked deck. I'm not aware. Not aware of it. I'm not surprised at all. They seem like a terrible group of people, frankly. So yeah, let's bring that to the last decision that I want to talk about, which is the travel ban. And Anthony Kennedy, I do not think wrote the travel ban. Justice Roberts wrote the main opinion in the travel ban. Kennedy joined that opinion. It was a 5-4 decision. If you've been watching this channel, okay. So yeah, let me answer Ben Cheever's question. So Ben Cheevers, what I'm talking about is in 2010. 2012 was the decision, I think. Long story short, we passed Obamacare, which is the cute label for the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. This was supposed to fix healthcare in America, or at least start and address the often stated and I believe 0% problem that we had 47 million people uninsured. Okay. So having 47 million people uninsured might be a problem, or it might not. It kind of depends on what you do with uninsured people. But the idea was we have this giant chunk of uninsured people, and we want to get them health insurance. So what they did was they passed a law requiring everyone to buy it. And then they did some stuff like they expanded the Medicare provisions for impoverished people. They raised the poverty line a little bit to help some people get free health care, for example. But they passed that law, and then it of course was challenged in the courts. It went up to the Supreme Court. Everyone expected Anthony Kennedy to be the swing vote. So they expected a 5-4 decision. They just didn't know if Kennedy would vote with the conservatives or vote with the liberals. Conservatives and liberals in air quotes, okay? What happened is Kennedy voted with the conservatives, but Chief Justice Roberts, who is considered a conservative, he was appointed by George W. Bush, he voted with the liberals, basically. That's how it worked out. So everybody was kind of surprised about that. But if you kind of understand the judicial perspective of each of the judges, the decision wasn't that surprising. And, I knew several people who told us what it was going to be. Like, they knew that. So that's what I'm talking about there. Anthony Fantano gave the new Death Grips album a 9 out of 10. What was Anthony Kennedy's score for the album? I think Anthony Kennedy's Death Grip might be higher than a 9 out of 10. He's pretty old. He's pretty old. And Ghostly Gun, yes. I'm going with the prima facie explanation for it. So... Well, thank you, Dr. Richard R. Abe. Yeah, right, Ben Cheevers. And there, make no mistakes, there are tons of problems with the American insurance-driven system. We have really, really screwed up how healthcare is done. And if you... I'm sure you can find any number of articles talking about how expensive it is to get treatment in the United States. And part of that is because the government has subsidized this insurance platform through work. So an employer can provide insurance to their employee, and it's a tax-free payment to them. It's tax-free income. But if you're not employed, or if your employer doesn't offer it, you have to buy it private, and it gets very, very expensive. And so then you've got this system where tons of money is going into health insurance companies, and then they're paying out for healthcare, and they're paying more and more. And so then healthcare companies are then subsidizing through other people's insurance, people who can't pay and stuff like that. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. Instead of fixing and addressing some of the issues, what they chose to do was just make everybody buy it. And it got really, really expensive. Much, much more expensive than it was. And yes, it seems like blatant crony capitalism because it absolutely is. It's shameful. And you can watch it. There's actually, they have all these people in a room, and they're asking questions about what to do. And this lady stands up who is literally the representative for the health insurance companies. All of them. Pretty much. This one lady stands up and makes the deal right there. It's on C-SPAN, or the C-SPAN archives. I've watched it. It was rather vile. But yeah, and student loans, same exact thing that's going on. Dick Nutley is absolutely correct. The government has provided all of this money that private industry didn't provide. And so they're taking all of this. You've got all of this new money. Now a school says, well, a person can borrow $45,000 from the government per year. What are they going to do? They're going to charge more. Why would they charge an $8,000 tuition when they could charge a $12,000 tuition? Their students could still have access to tons more financial aid. Post the link to... I don't have the link. I mean, I watched it years ago. I could, if I can try and find it, maybe we'll just watch it sometime. But yeah. So anyway, let's get back to this. Someday maybe I'll talk about that whole Obamacare decision and that whole program, which is just garbage, just absolute garbage. And remember, this was supposed to lower healthcare costs, lower health insurance costs, and premiums skyrocketed. They're insane. They're insane. If you're trying to buy your own health insurance, good luck. Good luck. But let's get back a little bit to the other decision I wanted to talk about, which is the Trump travel ban decision. If you've been following this channel from the beginning, one of my more obscure videos covers the Trump travel ban long before it made it to court. Okay? And I said, this is almost guaranteed to be constitutional. It just is. The Supreme Court upheld it as constitutional. The travel ban was definitely going to be constitutional because it's within the president's power and it's within the statute. Trump's travel ban took language directly from the Immigration and Naturalization Act that gave the president the authority to do exactly what he did, and actually probably more if he wanted to. They used that authority. The president is something that's called the sole organ of foreign relationships, or foreign relations. So thanks, Ben Cheevers. I appreciate it. Please explain blue wedding ban, not to break your flow. I will in just a minute, LNB. So the president is a sole organ of foreign relations. Typically, immigration is considered, or not immigration, entry into the country. There's a difference here. But entry into the country is considered an item of foreign relations, because if we tell Sweden that we don't want any Swedes here, that's going to impact our relationship with Sweden. So the president has authority in foreign relations, and then the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1957 gives the president specific authority to limit people from any country or countries as the president deems fit. Like, they gave him all of the authority he wants for a limited period of time. He can do this. And that limited period of time doesn't actually have a limit. It's like as long as he deems necessary to protect national security. Now, I will be very upfront. I don't think the travel ban was great policy. I never really was a big supporter of it. I get what Trump's trying to do. And let me also be clear, I'm not operating on the same amount of information that the President of the United States is. I'm not saying his decision is wrong. He may have very, very important information that we don't have access to that says, no, we really need to block people from these countries. I'm not a big fan of banning travel to the United States. I'm just not. So I'm not in love with this policy. That's my point here. I just thought that absolutely he had authority to do it. And the court agrees. But, people are talking about Anthony Kennedy being a swing vote on this stuff. And really, that one's such a clear case. And I would wager that the 4 liberal justices who voted against that decision probably voted against that decision because they knew the other justices were voting for it. So they knew the score. And then what they could do is make different points in their dissenting opinions. And this decision will be coming as well. The Trump travel ban decision will be covering that one in depth and probably going through some of the dissents. What really torqued me off about, yes, Canada should definitely build a wall. What really torqued me off about coverage of this decision, if you've watched the channel for a long time, you may have heard me talk about a certain Supreme Court decision called Korematsu. And Korematsu is a decision by the court upholding the actions of one of the people I believe to be one of the worst presidents of the United States, which is Franklin Delano Roosevelt. A lot of people will say FDR was maybe the greatest president that our country has ever seen. I think he's a terrible human being and a scumbag. Part of the reason that he's a terrible human being and a scumbag is because he decided to take all of the Japanese Americans in the West, which basically was like from California to the Dakotas, and put them in internment camps. And if you remember, this is right around the time we're kind of fighting a war over putting people in internment camps. So, yeah. Terrible human being. That's not the extent of what they did, though. And if you read Korematsu, and importantly read the footnotes, and you start to look into what was going on at the time, the people pushing, do you know who was pushing for the evil Japanese spies to be locked up? The people pushing for the Japanese spies to be locked up were actually farmers, white farmers, and miraculously, North Dakota isn't real, just say Dakota. Miraculously, the farmers who were pushing for the Japanese to be put into camps ended up with all of the Japanese farmland. And if you look back at this, and this is getting kind of deep into the weeds here, but the Japanese were farming almonds in California, okay? And white farmers were not. And Japanese farmland had an average per acre value that was somewhere around 8 times more than the average per acre value of the white farmers. But it all got taken when they were put in camps. and then it was just given over to white farmers. And you'll find that they were the people lobbying for this and reporting the espionage activity, the suspected espionage activity. And it's really, it was a pretty bad decision when you start to get into it. Sorry, Richard R. Ape. We'll have to disagree on this one. So anyway, that's the Korematsu decision. The court ruled, the government can actually decide that people, a particular race is dangerous and lock them up in internment camps. That was the Korematsu decision. 6 of the justices on that court were appointed by FDR, by the way, and upheld his decision. So good job. Good job, that court. Also, FDR appointed those justices, and when they were ruling parts of the New Deal to be unconstitutional, he went to them and threatened to appoint 10 more justices and make them all obsolete. And then the court miraculously started finding all of the New Deal provisions to be constitutional. So their judicial perspective was literally FDR threatened us. And gosh, he was such a good president. Just the absolute best. What a gem. What a gem. FDR stood up against Hitler and sat down forever. Yeah. So here we go. So Korematsu is considered in legal circles to be one of the dark decisions of the Supreme Court, up there with like Dred Scott, where they upheld the return of a slave to an owner after he was no longer in the jurisdiction of the owner, stuff like that. So Korematsu was terrible. What you saw reported was that the Supreme Court upheld the travel ban. The other thing you may have seen was that Justice Sonia Sotomayor compared the decision upholding the travel ban to Korematsu because she is a giant dummy. These decisions have nothing to do with each other at all. But she compared the travel ban decision to the Korematsu decision. What you did not see is that inside that opinion, Justice Roberts expressly overrules Korematsu and says that Korematsu is no longer good law. Guys, they have taken 70 years of a bad decision and overturned it. The court did. And we didn't hear that they did it. We didn't hear that the Supreme Court overturned one of the worst decisions in American history. It's bad. But we got to hear about Sotomayor's virtue signaling using the language from the law that is specifically overturned in the opinion she's dissenting from. So good job. Good job. Great work. That's insulting giant dummies. Dick Nutley says at least RBG is evil. Sotomayor is just a moron. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Sotomayor personally, but you know. But anyway, so we will be covering that decision. I have pretty much caught up on things that were kind of behind from my vacation in my professional life. So I now have some time to really dig in. So you're going to see some of these Supreme Court decisions. I'll have videos coming out on them. I will not be doing most of them live because we'll be giving them the full read through treatment. And I want people, they're going to be kind of long. And so I want people to be able to go through them. So those probably won't be live. But they'll be coming very soon. So watch for those. All of those decisions are major. Now the Supreme Court rules on a lot of stuff, but it's it's always a treat when you get something that changes the way law will be taught going forward. I didn't catch up on one thing. Right, your thing, and I don't have my email with me. Otherwise, I'd do it tonight and catch up with you. But. Dr. Richard R. Ape, your message was deleted by the Google moderator team. Uh-oh. Yeah, let me. Okay, so that's the Supreme Court, and I really. The Supreme Court has provided a lot of stuff that's very interesting, at least to me, and so we'll be talking about that very soon. Very soon. Those videos will be coming in, as hopefully as soon as next week we'll start seeing those move along. So the next thing that people want to talk about is Maddox versus Landau. So Stewie S. says, aren't there standards of behavior that SCOTUS justices must abide by with respect to opinions to the media about decisions, etc.? Not really. No, the Supreme Court is basically judged by what's in the Constitution, which is very, very little. Any opinions on the Rod Rosenstein testimony? Are you talking about, I haven't watched a lot of it, but if you're talking about where Gowdy basically said, wrap up, you nice person. Excuse me. Whew. That was a good sneeze. That's, I've said it for a while. Mueller is trying to delay the investigation until after the midterms. That's what he's been trying to do the entire time. It's the only thing that makes sense. They're hoping to use this as a midterm election boost, and they're hoping to win the House and possibly impeach Trump. They can't do it until the Democrats take charge, unless Trump were to do something crazy. Watch the interview with Jim Jordan. It's brutal. I will do that. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Dick Nutley says, here, Nick, have some money for agreeing with me on legal stuff. I just ordered like 3 Thomas Sowell books in the Gulag Archipelago. Stoked. Sounds good, man. Tell me how they are. Thomas Sowell is a good, interesting writer. I really like him as an economist. I like that he's brutal. He reminds me, I think it's intentional, he reminds me a lot of Milton Friedman. And they were both so matter-of-fact and brutal in how they discussed other things that is very heartening. Let's see. Bounty Hunter is censored, or I missed a joke? Bounty Hunter. Okay. Okay, Landog the Bounty Hunter. Let's. I don't know who Ross Albright is, Corwin. But if you want to send me something on Twitter or whatever, I'll take a look at it. Okay. So, Maddox versus Landau. And yes, I said that correctly. Maddox versus Landau. I talked about this a little bit when Landau first filed it. Landau has asked the court for permission to fire himself, and I'm phrasing that very intentionally. Landau is trying to terminate his relationship with Maddox and get permission from the court to do it, and basically state that he's doing it with no cause, okay? Because that allows him to preserve his lien position on Maddox and Jess. Maddox and Jess. Jess kind of gets lost in this because she's kind of terrible. Moon Cult, no. I'm actually drinking a Diet Feisty Cherry Coke, which is sad. But I drank plenty earlier at a wedding, so I'm not drinking now. Anyway, so the court has set a hearing date for this. It is July 11th. I will be watching with bated breath to see if Maddox opposes it. Maddox, buddy, oppose this. Wait, let me ignore what I just said, because I can't give you legal advice. Talk to a lawyer about opposing this, because Landau, the man that you placed way too much faith in, has set you up like a sucker to pay him tens of thousands of dollars. You will be in debt to him for the rest of your piddly book royalties if you don't get somebody to help you. Landau maybe should be fired by you for cause, because it looks like, I don't know what you talked to him about, but it looks like he convinced you to sue Jordan Cope, to sue Patreon. The judge said those were frivolous cases. Specific language that the judge used. These are frivolous and dismissed. If Landau convinced you to file those actions that pretty much any lawyer on earth would know were frivolous, that's cause for him to be terminated. He should not have convinced you to do that. I don't know if he did. But if he did, you need to talk to someone. It looks like he convinced you to sue Weber Sandwich and Joshua Kaufman. Those were frivolous. If that was your idea, that was a dumb idea. If it was Landau's idea and he convinced you, he's like, yeah, maybe we should get his employer in because maybe he recorded something on their equipment. No, that's not a legal theory that gives them liability for what he did. Okay? One, what he did probably isn't illegal in the first place. Two, bringing an employer in because he might have used some of their equipment. It's not going to work that way. And the judge told you that, well, he told Landau that in the hearing. He said, no, this is dismissed against them. This is ridiculous. If he convinced you to do that, he should be fired for cause. If he's fired for cause, he might not be able to impose liens upon you. Maddox, please talk to someone who isn't a horrific shyster. Talk to someone. Find a friend. Find someone who you might consider a friend, even if they don't consider you a friend, that's an attorney, and just talk to him about it. Please. I think you're a complete moron, but I also don't want you to be swindled by someone who provided you the worst legal service I've seen maybe ever. So, okay, I got a couple things to, let's see. Oh, I got a super chat here. So D Dotson 45 says, wondering, was Asterios so weird about going to Weber when Dick asked, because Asterios has a better case against them since they aren't broke? Let me confess something. I have not listened to Dick Show 108. As I've said, guys, I have been absolutely swamped since coming back from Texas. I haven't done any videos. I haven't played on Twitch. I barely did the live chat on Wednesday, and I have been just absolutely slammed. So I have not had time to listen to almost 3 hours of the Dick Show. I really want to, and a lot of people are asking me questions about this Asterios thing with Weber Shandwick. I have put on, I think on Reddit or on Facebook, or maybe it was Twitter, I put some opinions that I have, okay? And I apologize. I've also had this sinus thing that I'm trying to get over. If Asterios' plan is to sue Weber Shandwick just to get like some ammunition against Maddox, probably a bad plan. Very expensive. If they find out the suit is just a fishing expedition for documents, they may decide that he owes Weber Shandwick their attorney's fees. That you don't want to be in that position, right? So that is, it will be up to his attorney to determine what the best course of action is. Of course, it's not up to me. I don't have all the information. I don't practice in New York. I'm not giving anybody legal advice. It's my opinion. My opinion is that that's probably not a course of action that they would want to take. Based on what I've seen, I don't know that he has a wrongful termination suit against Weber Shandwick. New York's an at-will state, and it would really depend on if Asterios had a actual contract or if he was just an at-will employee. And it would depend what his contract said. So, not having that information, I can't advise him on what to do, but it sure doesn't look like a wrongful termination to me. But what do I know? Let's see. What's next? Oh, he could ask Weber Shandwick for, a letter explaining why they fired him. They would have to respond in some way. They don't have to tell him. But the question is that going to help him at all? Is that going to help him at all? It may be more beneficial to not ask them if he's going to go after Maddox, okay? And Maddox is not the only party here. There are other people at Madcast who have sworn affidavits that they tried to interfere with Asterios' employment with Weber Shandwick. So he can make a case against them as Madcast Media, whether or not they're a company or not. He could do it against the individuals involved. One of them, I believe, is located in New York, so that could be a problem for him. But and Maddox has said that New York is fine, and so has Jess. So if Asterios wants to go after them for interfering with his business relations, or for defamation or something like that, that's something to do. The question is, would a letter from Weber Shandwick help Asterios at all? Or would discovery from Weber Shandwick help Asterios at all? It might not. Because what they might do is they might say, you know what, we looked into it, and we found out Asterios was violating one of our codes of conduct. Maybe he was recording things at work. I mean, they didn't ever prove whether he was or not. So if he was and they released that wouldn't help his case at all. Terry W. says, I've had enough tequila to kill BoJack Horseman. Anyway, if Maddox shows up and pleads his case in front of Ramos, can he win against actually Landwy? I'll talk about that in just a second, Terry W. I will talk about that. So here's how, this is just a very pure legal classroom approach to Asterios' argument against Maddox. Okay, this is taking out all sorts of considerations and specifics of New York law and stuff like that. But basically, you have Maddox did A, other people from Madcast did B. Their attempt was to interfere with my employment with Weber Shandwick. That's obvious that they were trying to do that. That's not a legal conclusion or anything like that. We can easily allege it based on their affidavits, things that they have said. We tried to do this to Asterios. Jason Benaim just got here. Please start from the beginning. Hey, buddy. Thanks. Wow. You came in right as I'm really talking about Maddox here. So Asterios can make the argument that, and thank you, as always, buddy. I really appreciate it. Asterios can make the argument. Maddox did A, other people in Madcast did B. Their intent was to interfere with my employment. They have said so in sworn affidavits before this court. Great. They brought lawsuits. They frivolously included Weber Shandwick. The action was completely dismissed as to Weber Shandwick and Joshua Kaufman. They brought this, we believe, with the intent of getting me fired. It was frivolously done. However, it still has a negative impact and a negative effect. After the lawsuit was dismissed as to Weber Shandwick, I was fired. Now, Weber Shandwick has a right to fire him without cause because they're an at-will state. Absent, again, ignoring the possibility of a contract, that's a different question, but assuming there's no contract. So then Maddox did A, Madcast Media did B, they brought a lawsuit, which is C. In result, I got fired. Now, the next thing is that they would have to provide a different reason for Asterios to be fired. And Weber Shandwick, if they're not telling Asterios why they fired him, I doubt they're going to tell Maddox why they fired Asterios. So what's the point of going to Weber Shandwick to getting this information in the first place? I don't know that it helps them. We know that they did these actions. We know that the result of these actions is Asterios fired. Damage done. That's it. So I think if he can make the case, I don't think Weber Shandwick is necessary to do so. A lot of people have asked, does he need a lawyer to call up? No, he doesn't need he could call them up and say, hey, give me a reason why you fired me, and they could tell him whatever they want. And then he can have a lawyer do it, and they could tell the lawyer whatever they want too. So that's that's up to them. I have not seen a New York law that would force Weber Shandwick to provide specific information as to why they fired Asterios. So it's a tough situation. So there was so Terry W. asked, if Maddox shows up and pleads his case in front of Ramos, can he win against Landau? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it really depends on what the nature of their conversations were, and Maddox will have to break privilege to do that. He maybe should. I can't say he should or not. I can't give him legal advice, but he should talk to someone about it. Because, again, it is not in his interest to let the court rule on this motion for Landau. If the court rules the way Landau asks, Maddox is on the hook for a massive, massive bill that he probably can't pay. But Maddox has income that comes in, and Landau is the type of guy who looks like he will go after it. Listen to Asterios on the Kill stream last week. Watch your respect for Asterios deteriorate in real time. My respect for Asterios is not at issue. I like Asterios. He's a funny guy. What he's doing here is that's, it's understandable. But we'll see. Once Maddox breaks privilege, can Landau divulge things Maddox didn't talk about, or is he still barred? Yes. Yes, he can. Some things. I don't know if he'll be able to divulge everything, but yeah, that opens the book. Melting Point YouTube says, I didn't just get here. Please buy Sinatab Sinus Extra Strength. Yeah, let me go take care of this real quick. Give me just a second, guys, because I'm tired of sniffling. And thank you. Thank you very much, Melting Point YT. Give me just 1 second. I'll be right back. All right. So, looks like there was a... Cats. Rackets is gone. Everyone act out. Terrible plan. Old man Rackets is back. You have no idea, man. Some days, today being one of them, I feel absolutely ancient. So, anyway, summing up the last rambling 15 minutes, Asterios' strategy should be guided by competent legal counsel. if that's Greenberger, he seems to be competent legal counsel, and he will direct him, I assume, reliably towards a good outcome. He is certainly more qualified to direct Asterios than I am. But, I'm not sure of the wisdom of trying to rope Weber Shandwick into more things. I don't know that it's necessary to make the argument. It might be. There might be some rulings in New York that I'm not familiar with that would say that you really need to have a cause from the employer to bring a cause of action against the third party. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. So that's something that Greenberger will have to figure out. And if people want to see that happen, Asterios has his Indiegogo, and you can go donate it to it if you want. I don't know. To me, I kind of think maybe like you've got these sanction motions against Landau. You should probably push on those. And Landau and Maddox, by the way. Maddox is the one who the sanctions motion is also against. Maybe push on those and then maybe just work on content. But I'm not Asterios. He's a smart guy, and he's seems to have a pretty effective business model. So that's up to him. What are we going to talk about next? Melting Point YT. On a serious note, I'm glad people like you exist. Gives me hope for a future I'll never see. Well, thanks, man. That was a little grim, but yeah. Happy to be of service. Gatsgat says, who is the justice who wrote a step-by-step guide how to change his mind recently, and what case was it? I have no idea. No idea. Ben Cheevers. I'm worried that because of the funny way the process happens that Landau will never face those sanctions because they're in limbo. The judge is going to have a say on that. And presumably, so will Munoz and Greenberger. They're the ones who brought the sanctions motions. They would have to withdraw them. The court will have to hear them at some point. Even if Landau is... good morning, Keck. Nice to see you, buddy. Even if Landau is allowed to withdraw his counsel for Maddox and Jess, that doesn't mean that Landau is off the hook for the sanctions motions. Those are still there. The judge would have to rule that they're dismissed, I guess. But, doing that without argument for Landau or for Greenberger and Munoz seems like a stretch. So, Gatsgat says, can we talk about Pogs now? Pogs, like the little discs that you... Pogs? Those Pogs? Or Pogs from the Army? 90s Pogs. So when Pogs came out, I was a young lad playing Magic the Gathering, and I thought Pogs were lame. Magic was cool. So there you go. But yeah, Ramos, man. Okay. So another video that's coming. One thing I want to talk about with the Maddox thing. So on one of the last live streams I did while traveling, was talking about, it was the Patreon transcript came out, right? And so I did the Patreon transcript, and it was a little controversial because it was a live stream. We were having fun. I was having fun. Lots of voices and crazy stuff, but it was very distracting to a lot of people. And so I will be doing a clean read through and commentary of the Patreon transcript this week. So no voices or shenanigans, but just, the normal analysis version. I love doing the live stream stuff, but I know that some people come in just for kind of information on that. And they, when you're not live, that stuff's not always as engaging, and it can be very distracting for people. So I will be doing a clean read through of just the Patreon transcript, and that video will be coming up very soon. Gats, have you been keeping up with what's going on in the Magic community now? You would not like it. Yeah, I saw some stuff with the quartering, I think is the guy on YouTube several months ago. And that, that was crazy stuff. I haven't been following since then. Dick Nutley says, did you end up backing DNC Comics or Cyberfrog? Haven't bought a comic in decades and Cyberfrog looks sick. I have not yet. So you ever going to do the other reads? Yes. Zoikno. So the person I've been talking to about doing the other reads is Keon, and we were talking about it and setting it up, and then I think I dropped the ball because of all my vacations and stuff like that that were coming up, and so I need to connect back with Keon. I still want to do a read through with him and see if we can maybe get some other people so that we're not just like doing voices for all of this stuff. But yes, that is hopefully still coming. I think Keon will be great in there as well. He's a really talented guy. So and I like him. So I want to work with him on that. Jason Benham says, I apologize for making the court sound like Kermit. You're a good sport. Thanks, buddy. I love doing the Kermit voice. It really is fun to me, but I get it. Some people want very serious things, and me too. Not alone in that. So not just Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast is just dead to me. They've ruined Magic the Gathering, D&D, and everything else they owned or touched. Yeah, and I don't get these companies. I really don't. Gatscat says it's only gotten worse since then. Just pedophile judges and tranny cards going forward. Here's the weird thing. So on Twitter the other day, I follow Bounding into Comics now, which is weird because I don't really read comics that much. Although maybe I should. Comics are cool, some of them. But anyway, I follow Bounding into Comics, and they mentioned a story about. They said the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to have trans characters very soon, and it's like so. Why is this news? Who cares? Put trans characters. Like I don't not want trans characters in. But the problem with these companies is like they assume that they have to signal, and maybe they think they do. Maybe certain loud groups have made that a requisite for them. I don't know, but they think that like the signal of it is the important thing. It's like, well, just put a trans character in there. I don't care. But that's the thing. I don't care. I don't care what character's in it. Just please make good movies. Make me enjoy what I'm watching. That's all I want. That's your job. Everything else is ancillary. And it's the same thing with like Wizards of the Coast. Like, can we stop this like can we stop this weird thing where every place and everything we do has to be acceptable for everybody? Like that's not, I don't want that. I want things that are unacceptable for me. Like I want something that I don't want to watch to exist. Because it's hard to offend me, but because it's so offensive or just beyond my taste that I just don't want to watch it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that. I want that. I want that thing because then I want to appreciate the things that I do watch. So I don't get this idea where everything has to be sanitized to this median level where it's just okay enough for everybody. Let's see. Jason Bename says, I just moved into an apartment. My new neighbor refused to shake my hand. I think she might be a C unit. Can I sue her? Not yet, but keep me posted on the stuff she does. Maybe there's a suit in there. Since we're the same age, did you ever play Roger Wilco? I did not. I don't think. Not that I remember. He's not exaggerating about the tranny cards and crap. They made one of their planeswalkers autistic, which actually maybe is a good representation of their audience. Hashtag Lando was always effing robots. Hashtag Lando was always effing robots. My brain's not working on that one, buddy. Help me out. None of us care if Spider-Man's a black trans woman as long as the focus is on it being Spider-Man. Well, I don't know about that. I'm not... I think I said this in the Diversity in Comics interview. I don't want them to take an iconic character and make it something else. And I don't want Thor to be another white Norse Thor either. I want Thor to be Thor. I want Spider-Man to be Peter Parker. I want Captain America to be Steve Rogers. That's what I want. But if you want to make a trans character or something that is super iconic, do it. Like, make a good character and make that comic. Put them as a side character. I don't care. Introduce them in the way you introduce every other character. They start as a side character in some special edition. It's like meet whoever, and then suddenly they're a big character. Do it all day. I don't care. Make me care about the character, not about the identity. That's the thing. Like, I don't care about people's identities, their identitarian identities. Okay, I care about what makes the person interesting. What about your story is something that I don't get from this other person over here. Like, and I am the biggest fan of people. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of persons with every day. I love hearing about people, and I think there are massive geniuses, however you want to. I don't mean with intelligence specifically. I mean just brilliant people walking all over the place, and we never hear their story. And I want to hear all of them. Like, they're fascinating to me. So I don't care about all this other stuff. Can we just make them interesting? And their traits aren't important. That's not what defines a character. And can someone help me out here? Like, this is not meant pejoratively in any sort of way, but why is Marvel struggling with the idea of including, trans or LGBT characters? Because aren't basically, and again, I don't mean, this isn't pejorative, aren't mutants supposed to represent various outgroups? Isn't that the whole purpose of the mutant section? Was you have these people, some of them are not identifiable mutants, some of them can try to live in society normally, some of them can't, some of them are identifiably different. Wasn't that the whole purpose? Is that you have this group of people that some of them are easily identifiable, some of them aren't, but they're an out group, and that out group is trying to weave its way into culture and find out where it fits and where it doesn't. I thought that was a whole point of this thing, and it's a pretty common trope in all sorts of superhero stories, not just the mutant side, but any superhero origin stories, them struggling to figure out where they fit into a society that either doesn't want them or finds them dangerous, or that lobs too much praise upon them or relies upon them too much, all this stuff. Can you stop not being a bigot? You're hurting our brand of angry white male Christian conservatives. Lando is pansexual in the new Star Wars movie. Okay. That's great. Fantastic. Lando Calrissian. Spider-Man can be anything, but literally it has the license for Peter Parker. He's a white hetero male from Queens. Sony has to make Peter Parker that legally. You homeschool your kids for a reason. I homeschool my kids for several reasons. 40K Monopoly. Do you mean, Keck, do you mean the game, the Monopoly game? Is Broadway Cadia? Made you realize you're pansexual because you would wreck Emma Frost. Don't do that. Don't do that. Monopoly the game is going 40K. Okay. I'll buy a 40K Monopoly. I have 12 iterations of Monopoly. It's really, really, really terrible. No, I've not been watching Summer Games Done Quick. I did watch Medicur's analysis of games done quick, which was pretty funny. Pretty funny. He has a very nice, distinct way of tearing something down. Yes, that is the whole idea of X-Men. Problem is them being unable to create their own stuff, so they change other people's hard work. Yeah, that's the problem that I have with all of this, is just create something I'm interested in rather than shoehorning your idea into someone else's creation. Dilator's done quick. Yeah, that was the Medicare video. Very funny. Very funny. And I saw someone like criticizing him or whatever, but his point seemed to me to be, why don't we just like let people play video games and not try and shove agendas down people's throats? This is this is where people are getting it wrong. You can just do things. You can just have things, and you'll often find, like, if you're not trying to ram it down people's throats, like, they're fine with it. More like they're ambivalent. They just don't care. I don't have, maybe I'm unique in this. I don't have time to care about any of this stuff. And I assume most people are similar. Keck says, I got a court show clip for you. Want to react? Are we done soon? Not tonight. I'm at my parents' house. They have friends here. I don't want to get too loud, and I don't have headphones with me, so I can't. It would feed back into the microphone. But soon, very soon. Everyone here can list like 50 alien mutant characters they would take to Pound Town. People just don't want to hear the actor for a kids movie talk about sexual kinks. Okay, let's really get this room going. Should male genital mutilation be banned? Uh-oh. Literally 0.2% of the population is mentally ill trans. We shouldn't have trans characters, said Dr. Richard R. Ape. I mean, whatever. Like, but the problem is I would say less than 0.2% of the population is superheroes. So, there you go. I don't care. Like, that's the thing. I just don't care about what the person, like, it doesn't occur. What's up with Superman's sexuality? Besides him being objectively dangerous to anyone he was going to take to Pound Town. Stewie S says, drink up. Slainty math? Mahath? Confirmed it got kicked out of his house and was living with his parents. No. Lady Rackets is downstairs. She was actually in the chat earlier, but she went to bed. Let's see. If you read a Marvel comic, pretty much 50% of the population is gay, lesbian, queer, trans. It's just simple math. I always think of that. There's that Family Guy clip where Superman's down in hell. I don't know if you've seen it. And they're like, Superman, what are you doing? He's like, I was with a hooker, ripped her in half like a phone book. Oh my. It's Slantia. I'm the worst Polak. My grandpa, by the time I became interested in learning Polish, my grandpa had died. So, who spoke Polish. So I didn't ever learn any of it. My DDRI, my Midran Emrys. That is the issue, though. Rather than introducing new characters, the activists are attempting to co-opt current characters. See Iceman and Batgirl. Asking them to write interesting stories is apparently asking too much. Yeah, well, that's a sign of it's not just comics. That's the industry being lazy, and part of it starts in a down economy, and I'll talk about this in just a second. Slangivar. Oh no, you guys are throwing Polish at me and I'm dead. Jason Benaim says Spider-Woman's big butt is a big deal. That was a good video by Maddox, I will say. That was a good video. He was in good form. Gatsgat says Superman would blow his load like a shotgun right out LL back. The only way he could kill women is with a kryptonite condom, and that would kill him. From Kevin Smith. Yeah. Asterios wants more LGBTQ plus P people. P is for pedo. That will be added soon. Wow. The time I realized I should learn Polish, I had already cock-blocked myself in Krakow, and she left the bar. Okay, so I want to get back to my Midran Emrys comment, because this is something. So before I was a lawyer, I was a literature and creative writing major at Southwest Minnesota State University in Marshall, Minnesota. One of the coldest places I've ever lived, which is weird because it's south of where I live now. But oh god, the wind. Anyway. You know, what you find when you start looking at how movies are a good place to look. You notice how many movies get like rebooted and how many stories get poached from best-selling books and stuff like that. The amount of original screenplays that come literally from nothing that are successful is very, very small. Okay? No, I haven't seen that, Gats. I've not seen that. So anyway, you start to notice this. Like all of the big movies, blockbuster movies, are based on books. They're existing stories. They're taking successful stories, and then they're just putting them on the screen because they think we've got a good story. We've got a story that people resonate with and react to. Let's put it on screen. Let's do that. That's less risky than having. For example, Sofia Coppola wrote Lost in Translation, which won Best Original Screenplay the year it came out. It's a pretty good movie, but it's a big risk. It's a big risk to make a movie like that, and usually those independently produced or those independently written screenplays don't have big budgets because there's nothing to measure them against. So the problem is, and it starts in a down economy. And you'll notice in down economies, the movie and TV industries really fade back to leaning on existing works heavily, and tried and true works. You get a lot of remakes. You get a lot of sequels to popular things. They become prominent. They've got to cut the fat and they've got to cut the risk. They've got to know it's going to make money. The problem is not that happens. The problem is when an industry stays there after the economy changes. And that's what appears to be happening heavily in comics. So Midran Imra says, yet you can retell old stories in interesting new ways. See Shakespeare, William, none of his plays were original, yet he gave them depth by exploring the nature of humanity. Same with many excellent movies, books, etc. I fully agree. And I'm getting to the point on this is that they get stuck in this idea that, okay, well, during a down economy, we didn't want to make anything risky or new. Then they kind of cut writers who take those risks, and they stick with writers who don't take those risks, but who sell books or movies or whatever. And then those people stay in this rut of, well, we don't want to take a risk. I want to stay here. I'm comfortable here. I know that this will sell this many copies roughly, and so we can still push this. That's why you get these iconic characters that last forever. But then they want to write something new, but they don't want to take the risk. And I don't know if that's a culture at Marvel and DC that's causing this. I hear DC isn't as bad as Marvel, but I don't actually know. I don't know what's causing that specifically, if it's from them or if it's just like the nature of the people that they have, but they're not risk takers. And so they have this idea for this character or this story, and they're like, well, but what if this doesn't work out? I better shoehorn this into something I know is going to sell. It's Mithrin. Since it's Welsh, the DD is pronounced TH. Okay. You guys are throwing way too many languages at me right now. Oh, DC just hired Zoe Quinn. Good choice. I mean, that's definitely the person that I would hire. Back in the day, LGBT activists freaked out when homosexuality was compared to pedophilia. Now they're making the comparisons themselves, and they said the slope wasn't slippery. Yeah, I mean, that's where we're gonna end up. It's not, again, this isn't pejorative. This is the logical progression that we're going to. The question. And here's the interesting question with stuff like pedophilia. It's not illegal to be minor attracted. It's not. You like I said, I was trying to explain something else to someone the other day. It's not illegal to believe that all people of a certain race should be killed. The question is, when you start killing them, that's the problem. Same with minor attracted people. The legal problem. With minor attracted people, the legal problem is when you start infringing on the rights of the minors involved and preying on them, for example. So to say that, if we take this view of sexuality as this broad spectrum of possibilities, which is fine, sure. If we take that view as that's what sexuality is, then yeah, well, it only makes sense that we would categorize pedophiles along somewhere on that spectrum, right? You've got cis, straight, heterosexual, or whatever, and then going all the way on the spectrum to wherever you want to go. Well, if you look at sexuality in that way, that's the result you have to come to. The question is what you do with that. We are losing... Oh my, I'm going to have so much fun with that clip. Yeah, probably. What we're losing in all of these discussions is not how do we define X, but it's what do we do with the definitions we choose. Definitions are malleable. Definitions come from society's agreement upon what the definition is. It's not a voting system. It's just where everybody ends up, okay? So we've got these forces that want to drag us into these understandings of sexuality or identity or literally anything. It doesn't matter. Okay, you drag us there. You've got to have a plan for what you do, because you can say that someone like Digibro, you can say he's not broken because all he likes to do is look at pictures of children that are illustrated, right? These are not real children. These are illustrated characters. And so Digibro is legally exercising his attraction to this demographic, I guess. And you can say that that's not deviant or not aberrant or whatever you want. Fine. But you've got to deal with the possibility that someone like Digibro might offend. And so you have to be able to deal with that. And you can't validate someone who's I mean, this is the whole point of the cake decision, right? The gay cake decision is that if you've got the gay wedding cakes, right? And you say, well, this person can hold this belief, but we can't let this belief infringe on the rights of other people. That's what you're choosing, and you have to set that limit. Okay. Some people are going to disagree and some people are going to agree. That's fine. I'm not advocating for a particular position here. I'm just saying that when you drag people into whatever understanding you're trying to force them into, you better have a plan for how to deal with the results of that position. And the results of the position of saying that sexuality is a broad spectrum and that all of the sexual choices or all of the orientations people may have are valid, well, then you're going to come to the conclusion that pedophilia is somehow valid. Now you have to deal with the reality of that conclusion, and that's a tough thing to do. We as a society I don't think we're prepared to engage in that discussion. Let's see. Dr. Richard R. Ape. I think you're misunderstanding my position, but that's okay. That's okay. Maybe I'm not explaining it correctly. So Mithrin Emrys says, in Romeo and Juliet, text evidence proves Juliet was 12, Paris was about 30, and Romeo was probably 16 to 18. However, social norms have changed, and we've extended childhood and given it legal bounds. Right. And I mean, to bring it to a biblical example, many people would say that Mary, for example, was probably around the age of 12 to 14 years old as well. And Joseph was likely an older man than that. So we have changed how that works. And I'm not advocating for any particular position. My whole point in all of this is when you're going to drag all of society into a given understanding, you better have an answer for how we deal with these things. Here, I'll put it better for you. Gatscat says, here, I'll put it better for you. I like chicks my age. When I'm at the beach, I'm able to stop myself from just raping them. The argument is that we assume all pedophiles will rape. Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it. Dick Nutley says, it's degenerate as hell, but yeah, Minority Report. They haven't hurt anyone yet. I'd vote for Battle Royale, explosive collars for them in case they try to offend. Very fair. Gatscat says, they are just as able to restrain themselves as us normies. Let's see, but I'm still not leaving kids alone with them. Yeah, and you shouldn't ever be forced to, right? Like, that's the whole thing. Let's see. Let me give your youngest daughter AIDS with my trans dick then. No, please don't. My point is not that any of these positions are right or wrong. Like, that's a separate discussion than this one. I certainly have my personal opinions on what is right and wrong, and I will happily talk privately with people about them. Okay, so yeah. So Dr. Richard R. Ape, if you want to talk to me about that privately, I'll do so. Happily. You know how to reach me. Buddy. But my point, again, in all of this is if you want to drag society into your understanding, you better have answers, and we don't. That's the follow-up that I don't think I've gotten to, is that the people dragging us into these understandings don't have plans for what the understandings produce. That's my point, and that's a bad place to be. That we're going to try and figure this stuff out on the fly. That's where people get hurt. That's where rights get infringed. That's where things go bad. But should I be forced to bake a cake for the rape party? Yes, Dr. Richard R. Ape says, that's hyperbole. I'm straight and not a degenerate. Right. I knew it was hyperbole, man. I'm not going to... I would not think that. I would not think you would genuinely mean that. Don't worry. I'm good with the bands. Guys. Know the difference about Gatscat's example. Someday straight people will have someone to have sex with to satisfy their urges. Pedophiles never should. That's why they offend. I mean, that's the argument. But you know, and again, I don't know. Like that's taking an assumption that pedophilia is a condition that is an orientation that is not fixable, whatever that means. And I don't know that that's true. It's not my field of study, and I'm not gonna wager into that debate as to whether or not it can be changed or fixed or whatever. I mean I think to some extent sexual preferences change as people grow older. I guess they would if they grew younger too, but that doesn't seem like it works. But sexual preferences change in various small ways. I don't know if they can change in big ways or not. It's not something I've had to deal with. So, I'm attracted to lady rackets, and I'm stuck that way. So maybe it doesn't change. Who knows? Mithrin Emrys says that is the problem with highly emotional topics. Looking at them as though thought experiments gets dicey. It is also the issue with current discourse. Too many people are too emotional about even the smallest things. I agree. Cat says I'm straight and very much a degenerate. Dick Nutley says, I like huge boobs, always have, always will, but I also like a rockin' butt now that I'm in my 30s. See? And so if you guys don't know, I just recorded an episode last night of Ask Uncle Buck with Uncle Buck from formerly of Here's What I Don't Get. I think he's still affiliated with the show in some way, but he is no longer a host or a co-host of the show. So that will be coming out soon. And Uncle Buck and I have been friends for a very long time. He was actually my first Maddox/Dick related friend. We started talking after the homeschooling episode of The Biggest Problem, and I enjoyed recording the episode. We had some weird audio issues, so I hope that didn't come through, but definitely give that a listen, because he's a good dude, and we had fun, and we talked about the boobs versus butt debate, and it's a good one. For some strange reason, talking about pedophilia has lost 30 viewers. Maybe we should change the subject for you, my dude. No, I think it's the time. Well, I mean, maybe it's that discussion too. I don't know. Which, again, yeah, it's such a sensitive topic, and the problem is that there's real people involved in it, and we've got to figure out as a society what to do about these real people and how to best serve every citizen, right? Like that's the point of all of this is how do we get a society that serves the people who are involved? So did I answer your question, or did I? Yes. Okay, so I read through your super chat, Mithrin Emrys, and thank you so much, of course, for the super chats. I really appreciate it. And all this started because Pogs is better than Magic. It's amazing how frequently online conversations devolve into some discussion of pedophilia. There's got to be a study on it, a sociological study on it. I don't even know what to do with. I don't even know what to do with any of this. But guys, we are at 2 hours. I talked about doing a short live stream tonight, and it ended up being considerably longer. But that's because you guys were so engaging. Brandon Temmel, no update on the case against the Minnesota legislator. I've got to figure out if we're going to do it or not, and then I've got to figure out how to fund it. So Godwin's Law Jr. That's a good multi-layered joke there, Gats. I've got to figure out if we can fund the case against the Minnesota legislator. What he's talking about, guys, is I've talked about suing a particular state representative in Minnesota who has blocked a personal friend of mine on Facebook for protected political speech that was completely non-offensive and in no way to misinterpret it as offensive. It was completely innocuous. It just was literal political disagreement, and he blocked him on Facebook. And we know that the judge, a federal judge, has said that Trump blocking people on Twitter was unconstitutional. So it would be interesting to run a case against this particular congressman, but it will take time and funding to do so because I can't do that kind of case for free, and it has the potential to be very big. So that I may be talking about in the very near future, finding a way to fund that case through an Indiegogo or something like that. But if you guys are interested in that, keep bugging me about it, because if people are interested, I would love to get courts to start recognizing Facebook and Twitter as limited public forums and prevent them from stopping people engaging in political speech. So Mithrin Emrys says, perhaps we can call it Aristotle's law. The longer a stream goes, the more likely pedophilia will become a topic. That's a good one. What is the difference between at council and of council? I have no idea. What context are we talking here? Stop talking about suing politicians. You're giving me a boner. It's gay. Catscat says, before you go, can you please ask Haley to not make me climb another mountain next week? Tell her I say please with lots of S's. Haley, please with many S's. Don't make Gatscats climb another mountain next week. Please. Why do judges say so ordered? Because it's so ordered. Typically, you're requesting an order. So you say, Judge, I want you to order this. And so the judge will say, so ordered. It's just an affirmative response to a request. Terry W. says, any updates on the hemp oil guy's case? You win. We are waiting for results. Should have them next week to see how, if we move past our evidentiary hearing and into trial. And I don't know. I don't know what the outcome will be at this point. I, of course, think it should be dismissed at this point. But if it's not, then we have to discuss, going to trial or accepting a plea. And that'll be up to my clients. So we'll see what happens. But, I'm hoping the court makes the correct decision. Favorite Judge Joe Brown insulting Kermit voice. I don't even have that giant string of insults that he did. I wish I did. Oh, hey, on a serious note, though, I looked up applying for the grand jury in my county. Seems really cool, but 4 days a week, 20 hours for a full year, can't afford to. Yeah, that's a big time commitment. Oh, excuse me. Gatscats, give me a string of insults and I can read them in Kermit's voice at the speed of a glacier moving across a continent for you. Stewie S says, maybe it's a California thing, but I see business cards from attorneys that say at and of counsel. I was just wondering. I don't know. That's baffling to me, but there you go. Terry W., how is it not a slam dunk win? So unfortunate. It's not a slam dunk win because the court system, the criminal system is pretty stupid when you get down to it. No good low down son of a dog. You, no good, low-down son of a dog, you. It's hard to do Kermit's voice slow. So how is it not a slam dunk win? The problem is the way Minnesota, so here's the deep cut on this law. The Minnesota Controlled Substances Act defines as a controlled substance, a Schedule 1 or Class A or whatever controlled substance, the worst kind, any mixture containing any amount of THC. That's the gist of it. Hemp oil, industrial hemp was legalized in 2014, I believe. And industrial hemp contains less than 0.3% THC by dry volume. Okay, so the question is, does the hemp oil in the container meet that standard? That's sort of the question on whether it's a controlled substance. Okay, so the state is alleging that it's potentially a controlled substance and they need to test it further. The problem with that allegation is that they're charging my clients with possession. Possession requires knowingly possessing a controlled substance. So if you buy hemp oil, which you can, that might, it might have more than the 0.3% concentration. How would you know? Like, you're buying a product that you believe is legal. How would you know? It's sold in a store. It's not like you're buying it in a back alley. How would you know whether or not it's legal or illegal? The assumption would be that it's legal. that it does. But if somehow the concentration was off in that particular batch of hemp oil that you bought, it would technically, under the dumbly written law that needs to be changed, potentially be an illegal substance. So we have this weird conflict where it says any substance containing THC, and then industrial hemp is classified as hemp that contains naturally a 0.3% or less concentration of THC. Those two laws are in conflict because any amount would include 0.2% or 0.1% or any trace amount at all. But the courts in Minnesota have said that the 0.3% up to that is legal, basically. So that's why it's not a slam dunk case, is because the state has taken the position that it's possible that it might be illegal. So let's see. Dick Nutley, yeah, but it's okay because the county investigated itself and found they weren't at fault. Absolutely. Ben Cheever says, so happy I was here for this and can't wait for the next one. Kind of want Discord access in case I decide to install that. Well, the Discord access is through Patreon currently, although I'm trying to work out a system for people who don't do Patreon to have that. So keep posted. Oh, that's what I was supposed to talk to Gats about, I think. Can you cook down the oil to concentrate it? I don't know. I'm not a chemist. I have no idea. Importantly, the state has admitted in court that they have no information or assertion or allegation that my clients tampered with the oil in any way. So they're taking it from the position that it's the exact same stuff that the bottle says it has, which would be legal, unless it happens to fail the test. So it's just dumb. Give Stewie S a shout out. He's being evacuated due to fire. Stewie, stay safe, buddy. Don't catch on fire. Oh no, Gats, you sent me an Imgur link. As an engineer, if I worked for the oil company and I could prove statistically that all our batches were within tolerance, it might look bad for the client's expert witness or whatever. You mean it might look bad for the county, right? My brother takes hemp oil to curb his epilepsy. It's a legitimate medicinal substance. I apologize, but F your state's backwards butt laws. Yeah, dude, don't apologize for that. It's like, in our state, this is the problem. It's not illegal. The state law on this particular substance is okay. Personally, I think that THC, higher concentration THC oils should also be legal. They're not really, they don't produce the same effect, to my understanding, as consuming marijuana in other ways. So, it's not like even if this stuff contained too high of a concentration, it's not like you could put it in a pipe and smoke it. It wouldn't work that way. So it's just frustrating. They really need to change a lot of laws around this stuff. Let's see. I really don't want to use Patreon. I very much dislike those guys. Would rather use Super Chat, though I just realized YouTube takes a huge chunk. Yeah, and it's a tough spot to be. But I will hopefully, I've got to find a way. I've got to find a way to do it without Patreon. But I also don't want the Discord to be just like open, because those Discords get crazy. Way too many people, and you can't have conversations. So I'd like it to be people who, want to support the show and then engage on Discord. So I'm trying to figure out a way. Now that I'm back from vacation, hopefully we'll come up with a good plan. I mean, if the company has records showing all batches were less than 0.3%, then it means the client's likely tampered. Oh, I see what you're saying. But the company would have to be very meticulous about testing. Right, and I highly doubt it, frankly. And that's one of the things the state has brought up, is that these companies are not super meticulous about it. And maybe they're wrong, because the state is wrong about a lot of things, but that's their assertion. Want to hear something even more stupid? Canada legalized weed, but oil and edibles are still illegal. Yeah, that's pretty stupid. Oh, and also if there's additional content on Patreon, it might be worth it. There is a little additional content on Patreon, but I haven't done as much as I need to. So remind me to that reminds me to get kind of on that. All right, guys. I went on vacation without you. Well, you're a long way away, Rashvir. Dr. Richard R. Ape. You push the good buttons. Yeah, and that's there's a lot of things. The question is not, whether people should do it or not. The question is whether the state should be bothering people about it. And my opinion is almost always no. But that's what you say. Watch what you say about Discord or Kimball will want to fight you. Kimball knows where I live, so if he wants to fight me, he can come and we'll hug it out. All right, guys. I need to roll this thing down, but I love you all. I appreciate, of course, the discussion. It's been a really fun. I thought I was just gonna get on here and tiredly rant about the Supreme Court for a few minutes, but you guys have made it into a very interesting discussion and extended the time by well over an hour past what I was originally planning. And that's a good thing because, I wasn't looking at the clock until now, realizing that it's been over 2 hours. So I really appreciate it. As always, thank you for joining me. And you guys have a good night. I'm gonna do my thing where I blank it out on my once I see it blank out on my end, then I'm gonna blank it out, or then I'm gonna end the stream. But that way stuff doesn't get cut off because YouTube is kind of stupid. So, anyways, guys, you all have a good night, and I'll see you next time. There will be lots of content is coming now that I'm kind of caught up and can start really digging into things. But and if we get any lawsuit updates, I will be doing live. That's still a thing. And if we get any crazy stuff from Poppy and stuff like that, we'll do live streams on some of those things too. Anyways, good night, guys. I'll talk to you later.